All right. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that we're in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, Innu, Cree, and Dakota peoples, and the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation Treaty 3 territory. My name is Neil Harden. I'm chairing today's panel. With me are Tracy Anderson and Brent McIntyre. The assessor today is Cam Wong, and the administrative personnel is Crystal Harland. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment rule in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made this hearing are sworn testimony. Anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the board. The board is appointed annually by council and is independent of it in the city administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information how to do so will be included with the board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following a swearing in. We then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions the applicant may have, then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all the evidence about an application is being brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You'll receive the board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. We'll be hearing items 2 and 3 on our docket today. Ms. Harland, please affirm the assessor's and applicant's testimony.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Mr. Assessor, would you please state your full name?
Cam Wong.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Mr. Applicant, would you please state your full name?
Ashar Abbas.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for this. So the first property we have on the agenda is Unit 1, 535 Demiron Street for the assessment year 2023. So, Mr. Wong, you can begin on that property.
Okay, thank you. The file number is 25-69. The roll number is 060-704-43000. The address is Unit 1, 535 Demiron Street. And the roll year is 2023, and the assessed value is $1,331,000. This is a residential apartment. It's 3 stories high. It was built in 2021 and has 5 suites with 5 outdoor parking stalls. On page 2 is the location of the property with an overview picture. On page 3 are some interior pictures of the subject property. And some more interior pictures on page 4 and 5. So this is a new construction property, and as with a lot of new constructions that we add to the assessment roll, we don't have any financial information to assist in the valuation. So we'll be looking to market parameters in order to try to value the property. If you go to page 7, is our income valuation summary. We use average rents of $1,537 to get a potential income of $92,000. We use a 2% vacancy to get an effective gross income of $90,000. and we used a 38% expense ratio to get a net operating income of 55,000. Kept at 4.15%, we have an estimated market value of 1,331,000, which is about 266,000 per unit. On page 8 are some rent comparables showing that the rents that we've applied are in line with what's in the market. On the bottom of page 8 are some comparable sales that range from 250 to 256,000 per unit. So it is a little bit lower than what the model is estimated at 266,000 a unit, but the subject property is newer than the comparables. On page 9 is information on how we derived our cap rates. And on page 10 are some cap rate sales that range from 3.6 to 5.74%. So to conclude, the model rents that have been applied are supported by rent comparables, and the model rent expenses are reasonable considering that new builds typically range from about 32 to 42 or 44%. The mall cap rate is supported by market sales, and the overall value at 266,000 is in line with comparable sales. Having said that, I ask that you maintain the assessed value at 1,331,000.
Okay, questions, Mr. Abbas?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. Mr. Assessor, I'm on your page 8 where you have provided rent comparables. For your comparable number 3291 Gulay Street, would you agree that this property is superior in terms to our subject property?
It could potentially be a little bit superior because it is.
Okay. It is a concrete frame compared to our wood structure. Would you
Yes.
agree that? Okay. Secondly, if you look at the total number of units for your comparable 3, there are 105 units. And when we look at our subject property, it only has 5 units. Would you agree that there is a big difference in the two properties when it comes to number of units?
For that comparable, yes.
Okay. And would you also agree that comparable 3, the property at this property would have is providing a lot of different amenities to its tenants, whereas our subject does not have those kind of amenities?
That could be the case, yes.
Okay. Now I'm looking at the other 3 comparables that you have provided. Comparable 1, the average rent is $1,500. Even though it has 4 3-bedroom units, would you agree that those 4 3-bedroom units would be skewing the rent upwards, the average rent?
Typically, that would be the case, yes.
Okay, thank you. And then for comparable number 2 and comparable number 4, they are, sorry, I'm talking about comparable number 2. It is significantly lower than the average rent is significantly lower than our subject properties. And it has 34 one-bedroom units compared to our subject property, which does not have any one-bedroom or any bachelor units. Would you agree that it is not a very strong comparable when it comes to directly looking at the number of units and the suite mix?
When you look at the suite mix, maybe not so much, but as with comparable number 1, you could say that the number of one bedrooms is skewing that $1,415 a little bit downwards. So when you look at it from that perspective, I feel that it does support the rates that the model has applied.
Sorry, you said comparable number one has 1 bedroom units? Did I?
I'm sorry, comparable number 2.
Comparable number two. Okay, yes. Yes, I do agree with that, that it has like 34 one bedroom and 7 bachelors, which is skewing the rent downwards at 1,400. And then comparable number four, again, that is, I believe, would you agree with me that this is a strong comparable out of the four, and it has similar suite mix, same number of stories um, to our subject property?
Yes, it would be the most comparable in terms of the suite count, and but also it is 6 years older than the subject property.
Okay. Okay, so those were all my questions related to the rent comparables. Now I'm going to move on page number 9, where the cap rate table is. I'm looking at the third the third row for the multifamily. I think we both would agree that this is a low-rise property. Um, and I'm looking at cities 20th percentile and 80th percentile for low rise, and and the 20th percentile is 4.8, and the 80th percentile is 5.6, and the cap rate that the city have applied is, I think it's up 4.2. So would you agree that the cap rate applied by the city is significantly lower than what this table suggests?
The 20th percentile is 4.8, and the 80th is 5.6. So there are cap rates. So that's just between the 20th and 80th percentile. So that there are cap rates that are lower than 4.8, and
Yes.
there are cap rates that are higher than 5.6. In this particular case, the subject property has been applied. The model has applied a lower cap rate for the subject property, and it is in the lower 20th percentile.
Okay, thank you. And then now I'm looking at the three major brokers that the city have provided, and I'm looking at the cap rates that they have provided. For Colliers, they state that for the low rise, the low cap rates are around 5, and the high are around 6. Again, and then, well, let's move forward. And I'm looking at CBRE. CBRE suggests for low rise A and low rise B, it's somewhere between 5.25 to 5.5, and it goes as high as 5.75 to 6. For Cushman, again, low rise is 5 and high, sorry, not low rise, but the low is 5 and the high is 5.75. So by looking at these three major brokers in city of Winnipeg, would you agree that, again, just by looking at those three brokers, would you agree that what city has applied at 4.2 is lower?
Yes, it is. It is at the lower end of the range, but the cap rates from can be different from different organizations. But I would agree that the cap rates that that the model has applied for the subject property is on the lower end of the range. But still, that being the case, I believe that the model has done a reasonable job in estimating the value for the subject property. So the lower cap rate, I feel, is warranted for the subject property.
Okay, thank you for answering my question. Those were all my questions, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Ms. Anderson.
I was also going to question about cap rate, and did I hear you correctly that the model selected that cap rate at 4.15?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, and that's all my questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Mr. McIntyre.
I have no questions, thank you.
Okay, and I have no questions that haven't been asked and answered. So, Mr. Abbas, please give us your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just give me a quick minute. Okay, so if you turn to page 2, I have provided some of the facts of the property as well as our requested assessment of 992,000. This is a 3-story walk-up property. It has 5 2-bedroom units. Sorry, and the address is 1535 Demiron Street. On page 6, I have an aerial map view and then a Google map view of the location, and then exterior photos of the subject on page number 7 and page number 8. If the board would scroll down to page number 14, I have provided the rent comparables that we have chosen. Again, this is a newly built property, so there was not financial information provided. Did not have the financial information to use it for the valuation for 2021 reference date. So we have used 4 rent comparables. My rent comparables are all relatively newly built properties, just like our subject property. If you look at the suite mix, they all have a very tight suite mix compared to our subject property. We have looked at the 4 rents the 4 average rents for our 4 subject properties, and we come up with an average rent of 1,450 square feet. And then for the vacancy, we are also applying a 2% vacancy for the subject property. For the expense allowance, it's undisputed. We do agree with the city that newly built properties range between 30 to 40%. So we are in agreement to apply the 38.9% effective gross income. If we move to the next page, I'm just gonna quickly go over the cap rate. The cap rate we are using is based on our cap rate study, which I have also attached with our brief. Ryan is using a cap rate of 5.25%. If you look at the table on page 15, it's a new build property. It was built in 2021. Our base cap rates for 2021 for properties built after 1999, it starts at 5.25%. It's again low-rise wood frame. The property does not provide any sort of amenities. It's in good condition. There are 5 parking stalls, which is for 5 2-bedroom units, which is considered pretty decent. I would not say it's ideal, but it is considered good, decent. And for the location purposes, it's in a good location. If you move to page number 16, it will just summarize our requested value. Our requested value for this property is $992,000. On page number 17, I have just shown the calculation how we have calculated our $992,000. So on the first line, you will see that we have applied $1,450 per $50 rent, which gives us a total of $87,000. With 2% vacancy, we come to an effective gross income of $85,260. Expense ratio is undisputed. We are also applying 38.9% expense ratio, which gives us $33,166. And with that, we get a net operating income of $52,094. And then we apply a 5.25% cap rate. We get the indicated market value as $992,264, which I have rounded to $992,000. And that was what we are requesting from the board today. If you scroll down from page 19 and onwards, I have attached the marketing photos for our subject property on page 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24. And then on page number 26, I have also mapped out the 4 rent comparables that we are using. And then following to that, from page 27 onwards, I have attached exterior photos of the rent comparables which we are using, which are again all of them are 3-story walk-up properties. They are either in a similar condition to our subject property, or I would say they are a little superior, just because those properties do have a balcony and our subject property does not have balconies. That's all for my presentation. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, questions, Mr. Wong?
Just one. Like the model reconciles all its estimates of values using market sales to try to make sure that the model's values are reasonably accurate compared to market sales. The value that you've requested is about is 992,000, which is about 198,000 per unit. I was just wondering if you've noticed any newer properties like this transact in the marketplace for under 200,000.
Honestly, I haven't done any research on that. If any property transacted under 200,000 per unit for that, so I cannot answer that.
Okay. That would be all my questions.
Okay, Mr. McIntyre,
I have no questions, thank you.
Ms. Anderson.
I have no questions either. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I have no questions on this then. So let's move on to the same property for the 2025 assessment year. So again, if you can limit your uh, presentations to what has changed between the years, I would appreciate that. So go ahead, Mr. Wong.
Thank you. The file number is 25-65. Excuse me. The roll number is 060-704-43000. The roll year is 2025. The assessed value is 1,346,000. The property description is the same as prior. On page 3 are some pictures along with its location in the St. Boniface area. On page 4 are some interior photos. On page 5 is our income valuation summary. Please note that there's a correction on this page. The average monthly rent, it's stated as $1,537, but it's actually $1,600. So using $1,600 as the market rent, the rent potential is 96,000. Using a 2.6% vacancy, the effective gross income is 93,000, and using a 39% expense ratio, the net operating income is 56,000. Kept at 4.2%, the estimated market value is 1,346,000, which is about 269,000 per unit. On page 6 are some rent comparables, showing that the rents that we've applied are in line with what's in the market. On page 7 are some comparable sales that range from 265 to 281,000 per unit, and $266 per square foot to $321 per square foot. These sales, they support the assessed value of 269,000 per unit and $252 per square foot. On page 8 is information on how we derived our cap rates. On page 9 are some cap rate sales that range from 3.46 to 5.74%. So the model rents that have been applied are supported by market rent comparables. The model expenses are reasonable, considering that normal expenses are typically 32 to 42 or 44%. And the model cap rate is supported by market sales. Also, when you look at the overall value at 269,000 per unit and $252 per square foot, it's supported by comparable sales that range from 265,000 per unit to 281,000 per unit, and $266 a square foot to $321 a square foot. The assessed value is well supported, and I ask that you maintain the assessed value at 1,346,000.
Okay, questions, Mr. Abbas?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. Mr. Assessor, I am again on page 6, and just to clarify that I heard you correctly, you said that the average monthly rent per unit for our subject property that the city have applied is $1,600?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. So when I look at your comparable number 1, comparable number 2, and comparable number 3. All of these 3 comparables are the same, have the same number of stories as our subject property. But when I look at the average monthly rent per unit of the first 3 comparables, all of them are significantly lower, or about $100 lower than what the city has applied for our subject property. What would be your comments on that?
Yeah,
How
I
would
would, I would, I
come
would
up?
agree with that. I would agree with that statement that the first 3 comparables are a little bit lower, but the fourth comparable is a little bit higher. And like I said, when you look at the average, potentially the average rent of the 4 comparables, it is a little bit lower than the 1,600 that the model has applied. But I believe it does support the 1,600. Considering that the subject property is a little bit newer than the comparable properties.
Okay. And then you said comparable number 4 is higher than our subject property. Did you have a chance to look at did you have a chance to look at the pictures for comparable number 4?
I did not.
Okay. You didn't. Okay. I don't know if the next question would be valid or no, but would you agree that comparable number 4 would be superior if it is charging significantly higher rent for the same gross floor areas, or a similar gross floor area to as we see over here than other properties?
It's hard to say whether it's superior or not, considering that it is identical to the subject property in terms of, well, it is wood frame construction. It is similar in units, and so as far as I can tell, it seems to be reasonably good comparable.
Okay. I don't know if that's a valid comment to make, but I did get a chance to look at the pictures of comparable number 4. The comparable number 4 looked significantly superior, just by how it is built from the outside, and there are units that are being marketed in there on Airbnb and other rental websites. So that is my comment for that comparable number 4. If the board thinks that it's unfair, then they can disregard that. But my main focus was on the first 3 comparables. The average rent per unit is significantly lower than what the city model has applied. Okay, now I'm gonna move ahead to your page 8 of your brief, to the cap rate table. Mr. Chair, my questions are very similar to what I asked for the earlier presentation. Do you want me to go over those questions again, or can they be moved forward to this?
They'll be moved forward.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Those were all my questions for for the cap rates. My last couple of questions will be related to the comparable sales that you have provided, Mr. Assessor, on page number 7.
Yes.
Would you agree that the third comparable, which is, I do not see the address for it, but with the one that says UC30, would you agree that this property is way superior than our subject property?
I would say it's not the best comparable, considering that the number of suites is higher. Potentially, the best comparable would be number 3, which is wood frame and lower and much lower in suite counts.
1 second. Okay. Just give me 1 second. I think I'm a little confused over here. The 3 comparables that you have provided on page 7 on the top, that says Luminate, South Point, Urban Square, and UC30, those are different than the information that you have provided on the table?
Yes, comparable number 3 is a property on Henderson Highway.
Okay, and we do not have any picture or any further information about that comparable provided in the no picture, nothing? Okay.
No, it is a 16-unit property that is wood frame and similar in construction to the subject property.
Okay. And the first comparable that you have provided on this table that says 143 suites, is that Urban Square that is also on your table above? Is that the
Yes.
same property? Okay. And would you not agree again that Urban Square is significantly superior to our subject property?
It could potentially be superior, but these are to give you an indication, to give the panel an indication as to what typical newer properties sell for.
Okay, but these superior properties would not give us a true representation or a picture of what our subject property should sell for. Would you agree with that?
I don't think I would agree with that, considering that, like I said, comparable number 3 is similar in construction and lower in suite count. And when you look at as it turns out, maybe the lower the number of suites, the higher the value.
Okay,
I would point out here that we are using the income approach and not the direct
exactly.
comparison approach. So that goes to the weight we'll put onto these comparisons.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That was my next point. And those were all my questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Anderson, any questions?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Mr. McIntyre?
And I have no questions. Thank you.
Okay, I have no questions. So, Mr. Abassi, your presentation, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will keep it fast as most of the information we have already shared, and it's similar to 2025 supplementary as well. I will just request the board to come to please scroll to page number 14, where we have provided information regarding the income approach. Is everyone on page number 14?
Yep.
Okay. So for the purpose of this report, we are applying a potential market gross rents of $90,000 or $1,500 per unit per month based on the actual stabilized income achieved by the subject property. For vacancy, we are also applying a 2.6% vacancy. For expense allowances, again, we are applying the same expense allowances as the city did. In agreement, we are in agreement with city for the expense allowance. Moving forward on page 15 on our cap rate table, we are applying a cap rate of 5%. If you look at the table above that, it states that any properties built after 2005 were in the range of 5 to 5.75%. This property was built in 2021. Our base cap rate starts at 5%. It's a low-rise wood frame, no amenities, good location, surface parking, 1-to-1 ratio, and that gives us a cap rate of 5%. Moving on page 16, just a summary of what we are requesting. Our requested value is $1,061,000, and then on page number 17, we have provided our calculation. I'm sorry that this page is in portrait mode, so you would have to rotate the page. I am trying to do it as well right now. If the board can give me 1 minute. It just froze on me. Sorry, Mr. Chair, I would just need 1 minute. Okay, I am good over here. Sorry, yes. So I'm on page 17 where we have provided our calculations. We are applying $90,000 for the potential gross rent, which is based off 2022 rent roll provided to us by the management. It's $1,500 per unit, and then after we apply a 2.6% vacancy, we come to an effective gross rent of $87,660, which also is our effective gross income. The parking is already included in the rent over here. And then when we applied the expense ratio of 39.5%, we get a net operating income of $53,034. With our 5% cap rate, we come to an 2025 market value of 1,060,686, and I have rounded that figure to 1,061,000. That is pretty much all everything from our presentation. In the appendix, again, you will find pictures of our subject property and the building details and the rent roll provided to us. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, questions, Mr. Wong?
No questions.
Okay, Mr. McIntyre,
I have no questions, thank you.
Ms. Anderson?
Also, no questions. Thank you.
Okay, I got one question. Your cap rate for 25 is lower than in 23, but the typical, I guess, considerations are that cap rates may have risen a little bit in respect to, interest rates and all that sort of thing. Why is your cap rate a little lower in 25?
Um, I, I would not have a very good answer to that right now. I'm just going based off our study of our cap rate studies that were being provided, that I've also attached with the briefs over here. Looking at those studies, when I'm looking at the age of this property and the year build of this property, it lands at 5% for 2025 and a 5.25% for 2023, and I'm sticking with that.
Okay.
That helps.
All right. Thank you very much. I have no more questions. So now we have now heard all the items on today's agenda, and this hearing is now adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen, for your presentations.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Have a
you.
good day.
All right, Mr. Chair, I will. Okay, Mr. Chair, I'll go take us offline. Just a moment, please.
Okay.